Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel and back to another video. It's another month. I can't believe another month has gone by and we're officially over halfway through the year, which is actually insane. But anyway, it's that time of the month where I go through all the books I read in the last month and tell you guys my thoughts. I'm very happy. As you know, last month I got out of my reading slump finally, and this month I reached a new level. I read 7 books this month, which I'm really proud of myself for. I don't think I'll be able to keep this up. I'm already like slowing down my reading pace going into August, especially because uni started back. So I think part of the reason why I read so many books is because I was on uni break. But nevertheless, let me get into it and tell you guys exactly what I read this month and exactly what I thought of these books. So the first book I read this month was One of Us Is Next, which is by Karen McManus, and it's the sequel to One of Us Is Lying. I really enjoyed One of Us Is Lying. I love all of Karen McManus's books. Personally, I feel like One of Us Is Lying is my least favorite book from her. That's not saying much though, because I really love her books. Like, I really enjoy them. So I wouldn't not recommend it or anything. Like, One of Us Is Lying is at least 4 out of 5 stars. But this was a sequel, and to be honest, I wasn't that motivated to pick it up. I've had this book for a while in my TBR trolley, but I finally picked it up and it was really good. Of course it was good. Like, in my mind, I always knew it was going to be good because I love Karen McManus's writing style. So yeah, I'm really glad I picked it up, and I'd say it's even better than the first book, maybe? Yeah, I mean, the character development in the first book was insane. That's what I loved. Like, I didn't like the characters, but I loved their development. It was amazing. And this book, it's good. It follows kind of the same characters, but it follows more side characters from the first book, which I really enjoyed. So I'd rate this like a 4 out of 5 stars. Solidly recommend that. Okay, the next book I read is a reread. I read Throne of Glass. If you guys know anything about me and my reading, this is my favourite book series ever to grace the earth. If you haven't read Throne of Glass, please, please, please read it. I'm obsessed. And this is the first book in the series, and I didn't highlight it this time, but as you can see, it's already been highlighted half a dozen times. I do love this book, and I love going back to the first book in the series just to see everything, like before all the big secrets are revealed, and like when all the characters are so like innocent and naive. It's, yeah, I just love it. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. Go read Throne of Glass. The next book I read was Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which I've been wanting to read for ages. Like, this book has been very, very, very popular all over Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube, all that stuff, and I've really been wanting to read it, and I finally read it. I bought it for myself as like a treat, because I did go for a training camp in New Zealand and I read this while I was there. It doesn't live up to the hype, sadly. So if you don't know anything about this book, it is about these 2 characters who both have addictions, and to hide their addictions from their family, they are in a fake relationship. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. I think the book only became interesting and like the plot started moving along like 2/3 into it. The first 2/3 was just like setting up the scene, and yeah, it just wasn't that great. I don't know if it's because I went in with such high expectations, if that's what like screwed me over or not, but yeah, I don't know. I'm unsure whether I want to keep reading this series because heaps of people love the whole series. So like, I don't know if it's maybe just the first book isn't that good or what the story is. If you've read this, please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know. But yeah, I'd say Addicted to You is like a 3-star read. Okay, the next book I read is something a bit different. It's classic, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I have been meaning to read this for a while, and I finally got around to it. It was an interesting book. It's like future fiction, dystopian. It reminds me kind of George Orwell's books and his writing style. And yeah, it basically follows this woman called Offred, who is a handmaid, and her job is basically just to breed. And it's they're kind of living in this like utilitarian society where the government controls everything and they follow these strict rules. And yeah, not heaps happen. And yeah, not much happens, to be honest. It just like follows her, like a section of her life. It was just, yeah, there's some parts, like trigger warning for like sexual assault. There's some parts that were like a bit full on, and the ending they kind of lost me on the ending. I didn't think it was a great ending, but I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I finally got around to it. I feel like it is a good book that everyone should read at some point. I'd say it was like a 3 out of 5 star read for me though, personally. Okay, following on with reading Throne of Glass earlier in the month, the next book I read was Queen of Shadows, which is my favourite book ever from the Throne of Glass series. This is the 4th book in the series. I forgot how many pages it was though. It's 600 pages, and I went into it thinking it was like a really short, easy read, and then I was like, why is it taking so long? Yeah, it's a chunky book, but I love it. If you can tell, like this, if you thought the other Throne of Glass book was highlighted and well loved, this one is insane. It's got all highlights, all annotations, sticky notes, and I feel like the book's gonna fall apart in any moment, but I love it. I've reread this book like at least 12 times, if that's anything, and slightly concerning when I think about it, but it's like my comfort book. So yeah, I loved rereading it. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. Go read Throne of Glass again. I will keep telling you guys that forever. Okay, and then the second last book I read this month, I got back on the Stephen King train. I'm loving Stephen King. I should have gotten onto his books earlier, and I love that I can get these so easily at the secondhand bookshop. So I read The Institute by Stephen King. Follows a bunch of kids who have like either telepathic or telekinetic powers, just like small amounts, but they get kidnapped by this government, or like this institution that then uses them and kind of, yeah, like tortures them and does all this horrendous stuff. And anyway, it follows this bunch of friends, these kids who meet each other in this institute, and it is really good. I'd say this is a 5-star read. I reckon it's even better than Billy Summers, which I read a couple of months ago by Stephen King. The Institute is quite a gripping, really good book. Would recommend. And the last book I read this month, I actually read this in one day, which is insane. I had a flight, so maybe that's why. But it's also just a really easy read, like in terms of the writing style. The content was not easy, but I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, and it follows the real life story of Layla Sokolov and his life in the Auschwitz-Birkenau prison camp and his job as the tattooist there. He's literally there for like 3 years. And it is, yeah, really harrowing, some of the stuff that it talks about happening, really confronting, and the fact that it's all true. Yeah, you forget that this like literally happened. It's quite scary, but it was really well written book, and I feel like it's again one of those books like I think everyone should read in their lifetime, like just for the reminder, and it was just a really good book. So yeah, that's The Tattooist of Auschwitz. That was a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's just, yeah, it was very full on though, but definitely a book that everyone should read in their lifetime, in my opinion. Okay, so that's my wrap up. These are the 7 books I read in the month of July, and those were my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment below if you've read any of these videos and your thoughts, and if you've got any book recommendations, of course let me know. I always love a good book recommendation. So yeah, other than that, I'll see you guys in my next book video at the end of August, so stay tuned until then. Bye.